It's time for Off the Press on the Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Let's introduce our guest, Mr. Tunde Kolawole. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, my sister. How was your weekend?
Fantastic. Thank you. Let's
Great.
begin with the Punch newspaper this morning. The headline reads, Parallel Congresses. APC threatens to expel, suspend Osun, Kwara, Delta, others errant members. We will not tolerate parallel congresses, divisive activities in any state chapter, declares APC. We will take our results to Abuja, that's according to Arigbishola's group. Osun Governor's group says no violence, it was hitch-free. Also on the top of the headlines on the Punch, it reads, Nigeria spends 1.77 trillion naira on national cause, SMS in 1 year. Petrol consumption jumps by 340 million litres in 1 month. Nigeria's loans from World Bank, AFDB, rise to $14.35 billion under Buhari. Hush puppy. Suspended Kyari appears before four-man panel this week. Petrol subsidy may go up 2 trillion naira this year. That's according to Renault boss. External reserves gain $280 million in 2 weeks. Also, estate surveyors reject Fashola's monthly house rent proposal. And federal government dismisses NARD strike. Resident doctors down tools today.
All right, let's move to the Nation newspapers next. The big one there says APC, PDP sink deeper into crisis ahead of 2023 elections. Governors to decide Seconda's fate next week. Keyamo Ogala insists on Buni's exit. How to save Nigeria from Forex backlash, and that's by experts. Also on the Nation this morning, 4 killed, 50 houses razed in Plateau State attack. Lady caught with 35 wraps of cocaine. Also, hush puppy, police begin Kyari probe, DCP on suspension. Forex pressure to force Nigeria's further fall. And also duties, 30 private jets risk customs seizure. Anambra 2021 ex-PDP aspirant Obiora Okonkwo takes ZIP ticket. And also COVID-19. Lagos records 6 deaths, 519 cases in 2 days. Those are the big ones on the Nation this morning.
And let's now take a look at the next newspaper, the Daily Trust. The headline reads, Ali Kachala unveiling the Zamfara terror kingpin who downed NAF jets. His rise and exploits, experts say treats them as terrorists, and security analysts here saying how they can be tackled. Hush puppy, police begin probe, suspend Kyari. Federal government refunds 620 billion naira to states for federal roads in 3 years. Pharmacists Council seals 348 illegal premises in Edo. Presidency to Lamido reveal how Turaki surrendered governorship ticket to you. APC to expel bigwigs over parallel congresses in Kwara, Kano, Lagos, others. And students worry as federal government meet ASU over fresh strike threat.
All right. And on the Guardian newspapers, NNPC's FAAC contributions drop as subsidy hits 438 billion naira. Government faces tough policy options as revenues worsen. OPEC quota, local challenges undermine production despite rally. And Nigerians consume 2.113 trillion worth of petrol in 1 year. We can also find on The Guardian this morning, COVID-19 cases, others to suffer as 16,000 resident doctors begin strike today. NMA, NARD say family of deceased doctors yet to get benefits 115 days after MOU. Government yet to get notice of strike may invite NARD to parley today. And also, Lagos did not issue directive to reduce allowances of NYSC doctors, says Commissioner. Still on The Guardian newspapers, PSC suspends Abba Kyari as Kakol urges officer to submit for trial. Worries over IPOB's threats to lock down Southeast over Kanu's travail. And we're monitoring developments on Twitter ban, Commonwealth tells Nigeria. Ipman to suspend distribution of products in Eastern Zone over alleged police harassment. And also 7 killed in fresh Plateau State attack. Mr. Kolawole, good morning once again. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, my brother. Thanks for having me.
All right. I think we should start with talking about the crisis with the parties. The story on the Nation this morning says APC and PDP sink deeper into crisis ahead of 2023 elections. There's also challenges with Uche Secondus and May Malabuni, as they both have their, individual party squabbles. But aside that, the ward congresses in different states over the weekend also saw bits of violence in a couple of states. What's your take on how these parties are faring in the build-up to the next general elections?
Well, what the parties are simply telling us is that 22 years after this democracy, that they have not grown at all, that they have not developed, that internal democracy is still not reigning or is still not being practiced in most of these political parties, despite these experiences of the past 22 years. And why is it that we don't have internal democracy in all our parties? That's about 2 or 3 things. First and foremost, politics has remained the juiciest business that any Nigerian can embark on today. You sow little or nothing, and you reap a bountiful harvest. So, all politicians struggle to get into office in a do-or-die manner. Furthermore, INEC is not helping the situation. INEC has merely concentrated on the organization of elections. It hasn't been able to strengthen or at least guide the party on how to strengthen or farm their structures, on how to practice internal democracy, and also on how to be self-financing and self-accounting. And despite the fact that INEC acts in Electoral Act, that no political party is allowed to form or establish a private armies, and that thuggery should not be allowed within the principle of our politics. INEC has not been able to enforce that law in the last 22 years. More importantly too, just as we have seen in the past, the godfathers who usually want to impose candidates on the parties. And then there will be some other people who have their own ambition too, who want to resist this. So when those two forces confront each other, what you get is the kind of crisis that we have seen in the congresses of the APC and some that have also been organized by the PDP. These people mouth democracy, they talk about it, but they are the least democratic elements that you can find in our midst. Now, if parties are in this kind of a disarray, if they cannot organize their own domestic affairs in an orderly, lawfully, and democratic manner, how would they now be able to manage the society such that they will be able to deliver the dividends of democracy? It will be difficult, if not impossible. We as Nigerians owe our duty, the responsibility to really overhaul this democracy. This is not what we bargained for when people agitated, fought for, and even laid their lives that Nigeria should return to our democratic process. So we need to do about something about this democracy.
Mr. Kolawole, you have asked important questions there, saying if these parties cannot properly organize, themselves, how do we expect, them to lead the country moving forward? Also, we'll see on the Nation newspaper and also across other papers, the story about Abba Kyari and a probe that is set to begin due to his link with Hush Puppy. Later on in the breakfast, we'll be speaking extensively about the need for reforms in the police force. But how do you come in here regarding, all the links, from Hush Puppy, this renowned internet fraudster conman, to the DCP?
Well, the story of Mr. Abba Kyari is an open secret. I am surprised that Nigerians are reacting the way that they are reacting. It's as if they don't know what that man has been done all these years. It is shocking to me. Most criminal lawyers who have interacted with him will readily tell you that the man is not as clean as he has pretended to be. And the company that he keeps are not the company that a police officer should readily keep. I challenge you, journalists, to go and interview or talk to Evans' lawyer, that is Barrister Ogungbeje. He will tell you the experience that Evans had when the Abakiyari team went to arrest the man. All his properties were vehicles, hard currencies, expensive phones, expensive wristwatches, generator sets, and all manners of things. The man was cleaned up of it without a court of competent jurisdiction asking Mr. Evans to forfeit those things to the state. There was also an armed robber who was sometimes in the past arrested in Ikorodu. His name is Godogodo. He had about 2 houses in Ikorodu, and then I think some houses in Ibadan, and there's a different number of vehicles. I challenge you, journalists, to go and investigate what happened to all those properties after the man was alleged to have traveled, which is an euphemism for being killed in the hands of the South police, headed by Abakiyari at that period in time. You also saw what happened at the Obi Kubana mother's burial. It's a police corps, a senior police officer, supposed to be found in that environment. You also see most of the time in the company of some of the leaders of the National Union of Road Transport Workers. And you would ask yourself, what is such a man doing there? The truth of the matter is that if this story that has now become the albatross on his neck hadn't come from abroad, and a powerful abroad, a powerful force like the FBI, as it were, we would not have heard about it, simply because most of the police correspondents in the media houses, most of the judicial correspondents in the media houses are in cahoot with Mr. Abakiyari. In fact, most times he calls them his partners. Those correspondents, he calls them his partners. So, those people, even if they hear or know or get any bad stories about him, they will most likely not publish, they will suppress it. But with the social media now, and then these stories coming from the FBI, the federal government is in the quandary as regards what to do with the story. Can they neglect the FBI? The answer is no. If they neglect the FBI, then most of the trainings, most of the weapons, most of the military assistance that the American nation or the American government have been given to the Nigerian police, to the Nigerian army, to the Nigerian DSS, to the Nigerian EFCC, and most of the security forces in Nigeria, that will be lost.
Okay, Mr. Kolawole, we need to mention that what you're saying, the things you've been talking about, that journalists are partnering with Abakiyari and that his team had gone ahead to, basically take things for themselves that were for alleged criminals. These are speculation. They're not verified, just to put that out there so we can be careful of the, statements we make, Mr. Kolawole. But moving on now, let's turn to the Daily Trust newspaper. There's a story here that says Ali Kachala unveiling the Zamfara terror kingpin who downed the NAF jet. So this story basically, Daily Trust said they went on ground, spoke with locals, security officials as well, to unveil this guy who allegedly was responsible for downing the NAF jet. So, what we had seen in the news and, sources from the military had said that this was a job done by bandits. But we're seeing here that the Daily Trust is pinpointing this incident to a particular man and his group, Ali Kachala. But when we look at the history of how our justice system seems to work, do you foresee that there would be likely prosecution of this man, or investigation at least?
Well, if I get your question correctly, Mr. Ali Kachala is calling for the Nigerian security forces to unveil the terrorists who might be behind the shooting down
No.
of the
No,
Nigerian
no,
Air Force jet.
no. I'm saying that Daily Trust is saying that the person responsible is a man called Ali Kachala, even though Kachala actually is a traditional
Okay, I
name
have
for a
the
ruler.
paper in front of me. Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Yes.
So I'm saying, do you expect that the government should begin investigation into this person?
Whether investigation has revealed that?
Yes, I'm asking that because we've seen, videos of, alleged terrorists who've come out to say that they were responsible for killing soldiers and committing atrocities, but nothing was done. The security forces, never investigated that. I mean, as much as we know in the public domain. So I'm asking that in this case, for, a fighter jet of the Nigerian Air Force to have been downed, and we're seeing, statements pointing to one particular person, do you expect that there will be investigations into this matter?
Well, of course, there has to be serious investigation. When you lose a jet, like the Nigerian Air Force have lost, those things cost millions of dollars. And the life of the pilot was also put at a risk. And we have said this time without number that if the Nigerian security forces had been diligent in the way and manner they have pursued Nnamdi Kanu, in the way and manner they have pursued Igboho, they would have been able to unravel some of these grievous crimes that the terrorists or the bandits have been committing all over the place. But somehow we haven't been seeing much energy being put in that direction, even though the activities of a bandit has more consequences or has more capacity to really destroy Nigeria as a country, as a nation, to destroy the unity that has been our lot since the time of independence. But for reasons best known to those who manage our security, they haven't been paying much attention to these areas. And the consequences is what we are seeing today, that rural banditry, urban banditry have been mushrooming all over the country, such that if care is not taken, these people, those non-state actors, will take over the affairs of the country and then begin to impose their whims and caprices on all of us, just as they have started doing in some of the territories that they now control, in which they collect taxes, levies, dictate to farmers when they can go to their farm, when they cannot go, take people's wife, kill women's husbands, and do all manners of things. So my take is that we need to unravel and then bring more of those who have been undermining the security of the Nigerian state to book.
All right.
And you should remember, this wouldn't be the first jet that has been down. There was one that was said to be lost some time ago, which I doubt whether the aircraft
right,
has
Mr.
been
Kolawole.
found up to now.
Mr.
Like I
Kolawole.
said, it takes a lot of money and several years of training to train a pilot to be able to fly the kind of jet that we are now using on the.
All right, Mr. Kolawole, in the interest of time, I want you to. Can
for
you
a
hold on,
nation
sir?
that is not at war to be.
Can you hear us clearly, Mr. Kolawole?
We are losing it.
All right, Tunde Kolawole, can you hear us?
Yes.
All right, brilliant. If you can, in a minute, because we need to go, if you can, please quickly speak on the NARD strike, which should start today. The government says they're not aware of any strike notice, but the doctors have decided a few days ago to down tools as from today, Monday. Remember that we're still dealing with, it seems like a surge in COVID-19 cases. What's your response to the doctors going on strike after the failure of government to respond to their memorandum of action?
Please, louder, please, louder.
All right, I want you to speak on the NARD strike.
The
NARD strike, the National Association of Resident Doctors.
Oh, okay. I can see that now. Well, the story I read here is that it is the utterances of the Lagos State Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, that has precipitated the medical people to embark on a fresh strike. Well, so far since the man came into power, that is Mr. Sanwo-Olu, he has behaved like a gentleman. I'm not too sure he will deliberately want to go out in there and start precipitating crisis in the health sector. But the truth of the matter is that each time the Nigerian state, whether at the local government level, whether at the state level, whether at the federal government level, had made promises to striking workers, to striking professionals, and reach an agreement with them as to find a solution to whatever problems they may have undertaken a strike to ameliorate. As soon as the strikes are called off, an agreement is signed, the federal government will never go back to meet its own side or meet its own obligation or fulfill its own side of the agreement. So the workers and the professionals, they are asked to call off a strike. You and I will still know that the ASU people, the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities, are also threatening that they will go back to the strike they called off not too long ago. In fact, I think some universities have already started. And this is because all the promises that were made to ASU, the federal government has not fulfilled most of them. The ones they have fulfilled, they have done it in an haphazard manner such that neither the government nor the striking academicians are able to benefit anything from what the federal government has been able to do. But the truth of the matter is, like I've been telling my my friends who are in the academics, that what they are pursuing is shadow for any Nigerian professional, whether they be medical doctors, whether they be lawyers, whether they be academicians and what have you, to say that the federal government should create an oasis of a conducive working environment for any class, whether they be ASU or medical doctors, is a mirage. They are chasing shadows. What all these organizations should be pursuing is good governance across the board. Without good governance, you cannot have the good university system. Without good governance, you cannot have a medical institution that will be able to pay salaries of its health workers, allowances, and provide the facilities with which the medics, the nurses and the doctors, and then the laboratory people, they will work it. Without good governance and order, there will never be revenue. There will never be resources to expand our health facilities. There will never be resources to build more schools. There will never be resources to provide more infrastructure. So I will want to say with all emphasis, appeal to most of these organizations that look, they should concentrate their efforts on getting good government for the country as a whole, so that all facets of our lives can be properly catered for by responsible people that we can all join hands together to put in government. Look at what we are reading from the papers today. All the major parties, if not all the parties in Nigeria, I want disarray or the other. Even Omoyele Showore's party that came on board recently is now factionalized. There are two factions of the party that are now adjusting for power. And you can say that for all the different parties all over the place. The fate of the Nigerian people doesn't lie in any of the parties that we have on ground today.
All right, we'll have to wrap up here, Mr. Kolawole.
Or it can be gotten from ensuring that we will have good governance across board.
Thank you very much, Tunde Kolawole. We always love to hear your perspective on these issues. Thanks for joining us and for starting the week with us this Monday morning.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right.
So we'll both be going back to the year 2019 to talk about two stories that made history in the healthcare sector and entertainment.